You're not going to let me work, are you? Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. If you're new, I'm Adam, and this is Cayenne, and we are recording on the traditional territories shared between the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe people. And we're back. We had a little summer vacation. Things have changed. I've been busy. You've been busy, I'm sure. But right now, we're in post-production of a whole bunch of new episodes. And this is a continuation of a series we've been doing on ComSciCon-Canada 2020. That's a science communication conference hosted by graduate students for graduate students. And this one was specifically for Canadians. So this episode, it's a return to speaking with Tareq Youssef. I met Tareq at the ComSciCon Canada conference. We had a little interview with him before the conference. We went to the conference, and then we had a little interview afterwards. And we ended up with a double-sized episode. This episode is, it's going to be split into two parts. So look forward to that. If you're a Patreon member, you're going to get them all right up front. In the next couple of weeks, I'm also going to be talking with, doing follow-up interviews with the other guests that we had on, that attended ComSciCon Canada. And this is a reminder that I did a big write-up on my experience there at the conference. You can find that on the Patreon. www.patreon.com/scican. It's free, as always. Feel free to join if you'd like, but there's a big PDF you can download. Anybody can download. And it has some of my takeaways, a whole bunch of links, a lot of the stuff that I learned, collective note-taking that some of the conference attendees did. I've edited those down a little bit. But yeah, a ton of information for any, scientists, communicators, journalisty type people who are interested in what happened at ComSciCon Canada 2020. So yeah, check that out. And without further ado, here comes Tareq. And it is recording. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of this. You're probably not going to hear this because I think I am editing
another episode of
clips.
this.
Editing the clips all together into one larger this. But today I'm with a very special guest. Mm-hmm. I think last time he was on, we decided he was the most special guest.
I feel so much love. Thank you for having me back, Adam, on your
Tareq
special
Youssef,
Zoom.
The man, the legend. Here he is.
Adam, we were brought together very serendipitously, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
By
it was
ComSciConCAN
2020, baby.
2020. It was the reason we met. So that is the first positive critique I have of the conference.
Yeah, wow. It was the worst of times, but then it all of a sudden became the best of times, and
yeah, exactly.
And here we are now. So yeah, you're back. Last time you were on the show, we were talking about ComSciCon and all of the things we were looking forward to, and now we're gonna catch up and see if it lived up to your expectations, if it fulfilled your hopes and dreams.
Yeah, I mean, short answer, yes. Like, if people are just to not drag it out, but I was so excited to meet everybody in person. I was so excited to go to Ottawa and hang out with everybody. And I think it goes without saying that an in-person meetup would have facilitated more personal introductions and contact making and network broadening. But I really have to acknowledge how well the organizers did in making a virtual very personable.
Yeah, I was very happy with that too. And are you thinking Remo specifically, like how that helped with the conference, or?
Yeah, I mean, that was a good way to facilitate what they had in mind. But I think the way that they planned it was really good. So there were general debriefs that everybody watched, but they also allowed for people to debrief in smaller groups after those general debriefs. They also specifically fit in lots of breaks in order for people to chat casually. There was a lot of interactivity, whether it was the audience's ability to leave Q&A questions for speakers at every, possible session, or whether it was an interactive activity built into the sessions themselves. I mean, I think they really did a great job thinking out the specifics of how to allow people to talk despite it all being virtual, just so it's not basically like turning on a YouTube video and learning from it and then turning it off.
Yeah. Actually, I was kind of thinking that maybe it was more interactive than an in-person one. At least I was more engaged than I would have been in an in-person situation. Just
Oh,
because,
that's
like,
interesting. Why do you say that?
uh, just the option to write in a question in like a Q&A type thing and
Oh,
have
yeah.
people like upvote it or downvote it. I very rarely will ever raise my hand and ask a question in
Mhm.
a public situation. Um, but I found myself asking questions, and it's like that thing that they always tell you when you're in class, like if you have a question other people probably have it too.
Right.
The Q&A thing on the little sidebar, the chat thing, like exactly showed you that that was correct, because you could write the question and then people could like say, yeah, I have that too, yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's a very low threshold to, like, I don't know, engage with the speakers, the panelists. Yeah,
Hmm.
it definitely is less scary than getting up to a microphone at a conference. You actually make a really good point, because it made me think that in an in-person conference, having something like a phone app or something, or a website where people could log on and ask a specific question for that session that would be delivered to the moderator would be a really good idea. I don't know. I'm
Oh
sure some
yeah.
places do that, but that would be a great way to allow, whatever the population at a conference, to engage with the panelists in, I don't know, they can still get up and ask questions, of course, but I think sometimes when there are like 300 people in, a conference seminar, it's tough. Like, you're in the middle of a row, and you don't want to say excuse me to like a
Yeah.
bunch of people to get out to the aisle. You know what I mean? There's so many different variables that could affect it,
Or
and that
like
was
maybe
that
you
would be
had
a
a
really good way to.
question. Yeah, maybe you had a question during slide 4 of like the 28 slide presentation.
Right. Yeah, yeah,
You don't
yeah.
want to forget it. So actually, now that you say this, one of the people that I think we both met, Twitter famous at PhD Diaries.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Um, I was talking to her about Twitter because she's so, I don't know if prolific is the word, but
Good at it.
Twitter famous, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah.
We were just sort of talking about Twitter in general and like how we got started and why we were on it. And that's the reason she started her Twitter account. She was at a conference, and the organizers said, instead of putting up your hand or whatever to ask questions, ask it via Twitter. Use
Like
this.
using a hashtag or whatever.
Yeah. Um, and so she's like, okay, well, I'll start a Twitter account. Oh, wait, there's no free Wi-Fi in the conference rooms, only in the hallway. If you want to get Wi-Fi in the conference rooms, you have to pay for an extra package.
Huh.
So everybody
What
was
is
like,
what?
yeah, either not asking questions or like leaving the room to go into the hallway to start tweeting questions and then coming back in.
Wow, that makes no sense at all. Sorry, I'm kind of boggled. Like, either the conference organizers were trying to like pull one on the attendees, or they were just really bad at planning.
Yeah, I don't know if I got that story totally correctly, but that's what I remember her telling me. And
Wow.
I think that is the story. Maybe it was one of those like predatory conferences that you get like like academia spam about.
PhD diaries fell for a predatory conference.
It seems like a bunch of other people would have as well.
Yeah, exactly.
That's actually another thing. Once we start our I keep messing up the word today, Academia Vice style magazine.
I support either
Sends
way that you pronounce it.
Academia.
Yeah, that way too.
That one as well. Send some people to these predatory conferences and report on it. Just see what's going on.
Yeah. Oh, that's actually it's a really interesting point to bring up. I have a friend who you will also fall in love with once you meet, and she has this plan to um, in disguise go to predatory universities and take their programs. You know what I mean? Like the
Ooh,
Trump universities of the world and things like that. Yeah.
I'm
Would be
in.
another good story
I'd
for our
f-
Vice magazine.
I would fund that. I'll give the advance to pay tuition or whatever.
Yeah.
That's actually that also reminds me. I've been talking to some people who are still taking courses. My partner in particular is starting third year of her undergrad.
Oh,
She
nice.
started late, but she's talking about how excited she is for all the online aspects of this coming
Hmm.
semester and how it's just like so much better. And it reminded us of those infomercials for like DeVry University and all these like
Oh,
correspondence
yeah, yeah.
universities, and how I think they kind of got a bad rap. But hey, guess what? Now everything is a correspondence university.
Yeah, I wonder how they
De-
feel about that. It's so
yeah,
funny. I
like
yeah,
DeVry beat you guys. They've been doing this for years.
I'm very of two minds about the whole online thing, especially like for taking courses. And I was a little bit wary of like, doing an online conference as well. But the online
Mhm.
conference turned out really great, obviously. I've done online classes in the past, and I don't know, maybe it just wasn't for me, but also maybe it was just because I wasn't used to it. Um, yeah.
I could
I don't
imagine
know.
some growing pains. I
Yeah.
think you have to put extra thought into how you create an online course. I don't think you can just like take what you did in person and just throw it online and have it be good.
Right. Yeah.
There's
It has
extra
to be created
challenges.
with the audience in mind,
Yeah,
which I think ComSciConCAN did really well.
good segue. I was actually going to try to use that as a um so there were a whole bunch of different sessions, a lot of concurrent sessions, which is probably my major criticism or critique. Not that it was bad per se, just I wish I would have been able to see all of the sessions. Um,
Yeah.
so which sessions did you have to miss?
So I missed the uh, podcasting session and I missed the science of science communication session.
Okay.
Yeah.
I also missed the podcasting one. And then I think I missed the storytelling one, which was the concurrent one with Science of Science Communication.
I did the storytelling one.
So, how did you like it? What did you do? Fill me in.
Yeah. So it was Abir Siddiqui who did it. She is a librarian at McMaster, also teaches and researches science literacy. You probably know more about her than I do, actually. Um,
I definitely have seen her on campus.
right. Okay.
I don't know if we've actually formally met, but I do
Okay.
recall seeing her as a human being in
She
person.
gave this really great workshop on um, creative storytelling within the realm of science communication, obviously. So it was like, if to me, it was kind of like if you want to write a story for, I don't know, Time magazine or something about science or some sort of big scientific movement, maybe, or maybe a scientific finding. Obviously, the audience is a bit different than an academic audience, maybe even a bit different than a traditional science communication audience. Like these are people who are interested in culture
Mm.
and interested in what's a good way to phrase it? Interested in goings on, I guess. They want to be given a narrative that really has a central problem. So, for example, one of the stories that she highlighted during the workshop was one that was written during the AIDS crisis, during the AIDS epidemic. And it was all, and it started in a very like intimate way. There was a photograph of a patient, and the piece started with a descriptor of the setting, a descriptor of the characters, of their emotions. It wasn't something that necessarily started with like you know, so many thousands of people have HIV/AIDS and so many thousands of people die. It was more like, this person is a patient, they have a lover, they're in a hospital room. You know what I mean? It's painting a picture. It is very much like, just like the session was called, it was creative storytelling, right? Like you want to paint the narrative in the same way that the traditional arc of a story is told, where you give a background and you introduce characters, and then suddenly later on you build to a climax and finally get to a resolution. So, I mean, those are very traditional pieces of knowledge that we all get in like elementary school, high school, right? But it was really good to have the refresher of those things, and also interesting to see them within the frame of a very specific kind of science communication. Um, yeah, it made me very interested in it. It made me want to do it. You know, I'm one of those people who like, I see something new, I'm like, oh yeah, I want to try that. So I was very taken by it.
Mhm.
I think you would have loved the session actually.
Yeah, I kind of regret skipping out on that one.
We also
Um,
got to do some partner work during the session. So a couple of times throughout the session, we were sent away to our virtual tables with our partner, and we worked on character building as well as setting building. So we were just like brainstorming ideas for a story to tell. I think one of the prompts was tell a story of how you got into science or what motivated you to pursue a scientific path. And you would describe your character, whether it was you or whether it was a hero. And then we talked, yeah, we were just like brainstorming settings for stories, and thinking of a lab space, you know, not so much as a place where you create data or do experiments, but maybe as a place that's filled wall to wall with beakers and is, I don't know, has lots of chemicals in the walls. Obviously, I'm painting a beautiful picture. Everybody would read this story, but you know what I mean. We were just
yeah,
practicing doing those kinds of things.
rather describing it based on its function more by its like the other senses that light
Totally.
up when you are in there. The the
Exactly.
the thing you were describing with the intro, the AIDS crisis article versus like what a traditional science article would be like. I was thinking that it seems like both of them are kind of trying to achieve the same thing of having the reader buy in to whatever it is and like hooking
You want to
them.
elicit some sort of significance of the story. Yeah.
Yeah. But again, this is just a purely know your audience situation where, like an academic paper, the buy-in is for, you know, other people who research this or like granting agencies or whatever.
Yeah.
So they are extra not interested in anecdotal information. They just want like these are the overarching stats. This is how this fits into research as a whole.
Yeah.
Get into it. But yeah, the people who read like Time or New Yorker or something probably don't care about that because that's not their industry. That whatever, they're not making these
Exactly.
granting decisions, but
You want to
they
be
do know
reminded of
people.
like your uncle or, I don't
Yeah,
know, your cousin or a former friend or something like that. You want to have make a personal connection to the story somehow. So
interesting.
it's always about humanizing it and making it really relatable.
Yeah, which is 100% not what we're trained to do as scientists.
No, and you know, I mean, I would kind of like maybe challenge you right now because it is something, not that I have as a critique, but that I would think about as a challenge. Like, how would you do that for when you're writing something about soft matter physics?
Yeah, that's a I could see the
I do
usefulness of
think
this.
some things are like, some disciplines are less amenable to traditional science communication. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like some people, I think there's yeah, it's a higher threshold to like get to a place where like, okay, I've now made this relatable, and now I have to like take steps back to like allow people to understand the fundamentals.
yeah,
But
that's
maybe I'm
true.
wrong. Maybe I'm wrong.
I think I follow. I think like medicine and various other things. I think maybe even neuro. Maybe you're. one of the, just because people seem so excited about brain stuff, uh,
Yeah,
you don't have to do a heck of a lot of work to convince people that what you're going to write about is useful or interesting. Certainly in
right.
health, 100% in health, that's like a given. But
I
in
agree.
like the most extreme physics version, maybe talking about like or like math, talking about like topology results, you might not be able
Sure.
to. It's like, what does that even mean? It's like, okay, well, we're talking about the way things are shaped in an abstract way, and
Yeah,
whether you
yeah, yeah.
can. It's like, okay, how does this relate to anything? Like, you have to really walk it back and like find a.
That is one thing where like maybe I wish maybe in a future ComSciCon can they would address is I personally, and so I do agree with you. Neuro is definitely like way easier than a lot of like quote unquote hard sciences when doing science communication. I still find myself, because I'm not researching anything health related, I'm researching like fundamental neurobiology sometimes. And I don't like lying about what I do. You know what I mean? I'm not going to be one of those
Yeah,
people just because I study vision. I'm not saying like I'm about to cure like blindness. You know what I mean?
yeah,
I don't want to do that because that's not what I'm doing. Um, like the goal ultimate goal is like if what I find out somewhere down the line helps somebody cure some form of blindness, like that's great. Like I'm happy I found out a little
sure,
tiny
yeah,
tidbit of something, like that would be fantastic. But I would also love to see um, some workshops maybe on how to communicate, how to engage an audience when you're communicating science for science's sake.
yeah. Like almost like trope building. Like it's easy to fall into. I'm sure it's easier to fall into it for neuro. Like use like a classic. Oh, we don't understand the brain. It's such a crazy
Oh,
thing that
right,
nobody
right.
understands. Like use
Interesting.
the motivation that everybody knows about in the beginning. Like, is there a workshop you can build that helps you create new like jumping off points for people for different topics? Is
Well, I
that kind
think
of what you're saying?
totally. I think there's lots of experts who would be really good at teaching that, like the host of Quirks and Quarks at CBC, for
Yeah,
example,
yeah.
or I don't know, like David Suzuki would be really good to like because he's done so much science communication. I'm just like naming people that I want to meet now.
I'll forward this episode to all of them.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
wonder how long it
exactly.
would take to get on the phone with David Suzuki. Like, what would you have to do to get on a
Oh,
one-on-one phone call?
oh my God, you are pulling at my heartstrings right now. I don't even want to brainstorm it because all of a sudden I'll think it's possible and I'll try to do it. So let's not even go down that road.
I think he went to high school in London, Ontario, right? Is that
Oh my
true?
God. I move. My bags are packed.
I,
I wonder, it
uh,
makes me think, is there anything that you, any workshops you kind of thought, oh, this might be really good to do that maybe weren't encountered during ComSciConCan?
yeah, I really like your idea of like building new generic like narrative structures for different subjects. I
I
think
do think
that,
that's probably the most important thing is like storytelling in general. Like we need more workshops for storytelling, even if
yeah,
it's like written or oral. Like that is the most important part of the communication. So
yeah, for sure. Um, let's see. I'm trying to think maybe if I can riff off of stuff that I really enjoyed and then turn that into something. So one of the things I thought was really useful were the pop talks where
oh,
you had to tailor your pitch or your elevator pitch or whatever to certain groups of people.
are we going
And
to talk about how it was a random draw and I was the first pop talk of the whole
and you
conference and I had no idea it was
freaking
happening?
and you killed it. You
I
set
have
the
no I have no sympathy for anyone that followed me because y'all had minutes to days to craft your your 1 minute talk. I'm just kidding.
Oh man, I wish I had recorded yours.
No, that's fine.
I did that. So I went to a ComSciCon in the States last year,
Okay, a
and
renaissance man.
I secretly recorded everybody's pop talks on my little voice recorder. I haven't gone back and listened to them, but I'm probably just going to use it as like blackmail for future.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Okay,
but I
so
didn't. I
everybody
didn't get
listening,
yours.
feel free to block Adam on Twitter.
Uh-oh. But yeah, I think there's more of a workshop that could be done around just tailoring the words you use and the message, like the take-home message for different people. So who did you pop talk to? Who was your target?
Oh, yeah, mine was the CEO of a business,
Ah,
CEO
right,
of a
right, right.
company. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
And
had to kind
so
of sell, quote unquote, my science to them.
yeah, yeah, and you were given maybe like 30 seconds to come up with that.
I
So
guess. Yeah.
the thing I guess that you keyed in on was CEO business. So this is probably some sort of Shark Tank situation.
Yeah.
That's kind
So
of the
there has to be
approach
a
you had.
financial interest for them, is what I was
Yeah.
thinking. Yeah.
So how did that affect the way that you presented yourself?
Well, I tried to think about what the biggest financial interest would be for someone to buy into my research on light adaptation in the fish retina.
Hmm.
So I extrapolated real hard, as I guess any good business owner would,
Oh
and
yeah.
I made it about visual prostheses and the fact that we can't build good visual prostheses unless we understand the fundamentals of vision. So I was trying to sell them on the fundamentals of vision that way, as it being a starting point for, down the line creations. So they would be
Yeah.
funding a think tank, not an
Yeah.
actual product, really. So that's what
And
I tried to do, which is basically what I try to do whenever I write a grant. You know what I mean?
yeah, and that sounds like it still agrees with your sentiment of I'm not going to try to mislead people into thinking that I'm going to solve vision problems or whatever,
Yeah,
like
I want to be
directly.
upfront about the fact that it's basic science first, and
Yeah,
then hopefully something else can happen. Someone years from now can do something with it.
yeah, or yeah, and I think you did a really good job of that.
Thank you.
It was nice. It was nice. Do you remember any of the other
I
subjects
remember the
or whatever?
prompts.
The
Yeah,
prompts?
some one of them was talking to someone at Burning Man.
Yeah,
Another one was talking to aliens. Another
I
one
like
was
that.
talking
Those
to
are the
people at an
two
old
that
folks'
you.
home. Yeah, yeah,
Those are the two that you remember side by side.
yeah. Talking to seniors at an old folks' home. Uh, I don't know if I remember any other ones really.
There was a egg farmer. I remember because that's the one I had to do, and I had
Oh my
planned to have
gosh,
some sort of
I don't
pun
remember
joke
that.
type thing, but I dropped the delivery.
I remember
So
being very happy during yours, but I don't remember the egg farmer part of it.
yeah, but then I think my favorite one
Yeah,
was
moves on.
yeah, it was not the
Dot dot dot.
greatest. So you like eggs, huh? I think my favorite was the 19th century um, the people of the 19th century, time traveler
Oh,
style.
right, right. There was a time traveling one. Yes.
I think I like that one the best because you kind of saw people's understanding of history and like, do we know about germs in the 19th century? When did we find out about germs?
Oh
And
yeah.
see like
Oh, all
what
right.
people's
You have no
historical
internet.
assumptions are.
Yeah, you don't know what a website is. Yeah.
Like how far back do we have to go for these people? I don't actually historically know. Like what can I assume that they know?
Right. Yeah. That would be an interesting job if one. I guess like. Oh no, you're a physicist. We can't travel back in time, right? We can only travel to the future. Is that right?
Yeah, we can like speed up time.
Right. So I
S-
guess that's moot. We'd never be able to go back to the 1900s. That would be the most useless job, a science communicator that travels to the future to tell them about old science. That would
That would
be
just be, I think you'd be in the
waste of
history
time.
department. You wouldn't be a scientist
Yeah,
anymore.
right, 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 right. It's still fresh in your mind. Yeah.
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 So tell me about this click wheel. What is this
Yeah.
iPod click wheel?
Yeah.
You mean you didn't just speak to your devices?
Yeah.
Well, A lot of people thought that the tactile response was something that was very important.
I mean, none of us are going to speak in a few years anyway. Everything's going to be brain machine interface.
I thought you were going to say because it'll just be the end.
Out of
There won't be
respect.
any.
Oh,
There won't be
everyone's
anything.
gone. Yeah.
No one's going
Right.
to be speaking.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to call it quits for this week. Thank you for tuning in. To catch the second half, we'll be posting it up next week.